Have you ever caught yourself in an argument with your husband and realized it's not even really you talking? Like suddenly, it's your mom's voice coming out, her tone, her fears, her resentment toward men. And you're a grown woman, right? You've got your own family, your own life, your own rules, but in that moment, you become her. Sharp, controlling, never satisfied, or the opposite, quiet, terping everything, afraid to lose him, and the scariest part? You don't even notice how it's slowly destroying your relationship, because it's not really about your husband, and it's not even about that argument. It's about the script running inside you, one you never consciously chose, a script where men aren't safe. Love feels like a struggle, and closeness comes with pain. And here you are, trying to build a happy, healthy relationship through the lens of someone else's experience. Your mom's pain, your mom's disappointments, your mom's truth. That became yours without you even realizing it. And you know what happens next. You either start overgiving and saving the relationship at the cost of yourself, or you slowly razrushate it, even when things could actually be good. Because you're not standing in your own truth. You're standing in an old story that keeps whispering. This is just how it is with men. If this hit something inside you, stay with me. Because I'm about to show you how your mom might be shaping your relationship without you even noticing. And more importantly, how to break free from it without betraying yourself or her. Let's get one thing straight. The real problem is not your mom. It's not about what she says, how she behaves, or even her opinions. The real issue is the connection inside you that's still running the show. Because on the outside, yeah, you're an adult. You've got your own life, your own family, your own relationship. But on the inside, there can still be this quiet, almost invisible dynamic where your mom's voice carries more weight than your own. This is what's called unfinished separation. It doesn't mean you don't love your mom. It doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means a part of you is still emotionally, a part of you still believes. Mom knows better. Mom's opinion matters more. I shouldn't upset her. And from that place, you're not actually living your life as you. You're living from an internalized version of her. From that voice in your head that judges your partner, that questions your choices, that creates doubt where there could be trust. And here's how it plays out in real life. You share something about your husband with her, and suddenly her reaction affects how you feel about him. You make a decision, but you second guess it because you imagine what she would say. You feel guilty for choosing your relationship over her expectations. And without even realizing it, you start betraying yourself. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in small, subtle ways. Every single day, you silence your needs. You override your intuition. You disconnect from your partner. All because, deep inside, that bond with your mom is still leading, instead of supporting you. And until that shifts, no matter how much you try to fix your relationship, you'll keep recreating the same tension, because the real work is not changing your mom. It's finally coming back to yourself. Now let's talk about why this actually has so much power over you, because there are several deep psychological mechanisms at play here, and they don't work on a logical level. They work on the level of survival, attachment, and core emotions. The first one is loyalty. A child is always loyal to their parent. It's wired into us from the very beginning. It doesn't matter what your mom is like. Critical, intrusive, dismissive. Deep inside, there's still that feeling. I'm with her. I have to be on her side. Even if you're 30, 35, 40, even if you know she's not right, there's this deep impulse not to betray her. So when there's tension between your mom and your husband, you end up in an internal split, where choosing yourself or your partner feels like betrayal. The second mechanism is the fear of losing love. This one goes even deeper. Because for a child, a parent's love means safety, survival. And that part of your psyche doesn't just disappear when you grow up. On a subconscious level, it sounds like, if I choose myself, if I disagree, if I set a boundary, my mom might reject me. And it's not just a thought, it's a felt fear in your body. Sometimes it shows up as anxiety, sometimes as tightness in your chest, sometimes as this urge to quickly fix it and be good again. And in that moment, you automatically don't choose yourself. You choose preserving the connection, even if it costs you your relationship. The third mechanism is guilt. This is one of the strongest triggers there is. It often sounds very familiar inside. I'm a bad daughter. She's done so much for me. I should listen to her. And here's an important nuance. Most of the time, your mom isn't directly saying, feel guilty. This builds over years, through reactions, tone, expectations, and guilt becomes your internal regulator. You start controlling yourself, what to say, how to act, where to hold back. Because any step away from what feels right brings up that heavy feeling. So again, you don't choose yourself. You choose a way not to feel guilty. And yes, very often guilt becomes a tool of control, not always conscious, but very powerful. The fourth mechanism is the transfer of patterns, and this is where it gets the most subtle and the most destructive. You start reacting to your husband, not just from who you are, but from the model you saw growing up. If your mom devalued men, you might find yourself doing the same. If she lived in a victim mindset, you may unconsciously step into that role too. If her relationships were filled with tension, control, or distrust, you carry that into your own, and at some point, you stop noticing what's actually yours and what's just a repeated pattern. That's how these dynamics get passed on. No words, no intention, just because it became normal inside you. And when all of these mechanisms are working together, loyalty, fear, guilt, and inherited patterns, it can feel like you're not fully living your own life. You're building a relationship, but you're not standing in yourself. You're standing in the past. That's still moving through you. Now let's talk about the most important part, how the relationship actually gets destroyed, because it doesn't happen overnight. There's no single moment where everything just breaks. It's a slow, subtle process. At first, you barely notice it. And then one day, it's your reality. Step 1. You start sharing problems with your mom. When you're hurt, upset, confused, you go to her. You tell her about the arguments, his words, how you feel. And it seems normal. She's your mom. She's close to you. But here's the catch. You almost never share the good things with the same intensity. You don't tell her how he supported you, how you laughed together, how he showed up for you. So she ends up seeing a very one-sided picture. Step 2. Your mom forms an opinion about your husband based on what she hears. She starts building her perception, and most of the time, it's cautious or critical, because all she sees are the moments where you're hurting, and from her love or from her own past. She wants to protect you. Sometimes it sounds gentle, sometimes it's more direct, but the message is the same. In her eyes, your husband isn't the one making you happy. He's the one causing you pain. Step 3. You start doubting. And this is where the shift happens. You were living in your own experience, your own feelings. But now there's a second voice in your head. What if she's right? What if I'm missing something? Maybe he's not who I think he is. And that doubt starts eating away at your sense of stability. You're not as sure about him, not as sure about yourself, not as sure about your relationship. Step 4. Your behavior starts to change, and it happens almost invisibly. You start controlling more, questioning more, expecting more. Where there used to be trust, there's tension. Where there used to be ease, there's suspicion. You become more closed off, more guarded, more demanding. Not because you're a bad person, but because doubt has already settled inside you. Step 5. Your husband feels it. Even if you don't say anything directly, he feels it. The distance, the lack of trust, the sense that he's being watched, judged, not fully accepted. And in response, he starts pulling away. He shuts down in some moments, gets irritated in others, or moves into conflict. And little by little, distance grows between you, the kind that becomes really hard to close later. And in the end, the relationship starts falling apart. Not all at once, but step by step. And the trickiest part is, it creates the illusion that it's because of him. That he changed, that he got worse, that he's the problem. When in reality, there was a third presence in the dynamic from the very beginning, quiet, unintentional, but very real in its impact. Now we're getting to the core, the deepest level of this whole topic. It's not about behavior, not about your mom, not even really about your husband. It's about the inner conflict living inside you. A conflict between two roles. On one side, the daughter. The part of you that still wants approval, that fears judgment, that's used to living by your mom's rules. She follows the right way. She reads expectations. She tries to be good. And on the other side, the woman, the wife, the part of you that wants to build her own life, that feels her partner, that wants to choose, decide, and stand in her own power. She's about intimacy, about real feelings, about being present. Here's the thing. If there's no separation between these parts, if you haven't drawn the line inside between daughter and woman, then the daughter starts running the woman, quietly, subtly, but very powerfully. And suddenly, you're not fully choosing your husband. You're leaving a back door open toward your mom's opinion, her truth, her approval. You don't feel fully grounded inside yourself because the decision isn't completely yours. And you're constantly stuck in the middle, between your mom and your husband, between I should and I want, between fear and desire. This is what it feels like. Split inside. One part of you reaches for connection, and the other part instantly doubts it or shuts it down. You're in the relationship, but not fully present in it. And until this inner conflict is resolved, you can't really build a stable, deep connection. Because the first step is always choose yourself. Let's break down why moms interfere. First, it's important to drop the illusion. She's not trying to sabotage your relationship on purpose. Most of the time, it's not about control or being manipulative. It's about fear, past experiences, and her own limits. First, the fear of being alone. Mom is afraid of ending up alone. Subconsciously, she thinks, if my daughter goes off to live her own life, I'll be left by myself. Every time you make choices for your family, pick your husband, or create independence, it can trigger her anxiety. And to ease that anxiety, she may step in, give advice, or guide you, often without realizing it puts pressure on your relationship. Second, control as a form of love. Many moms genuinely think, I know what's best for you. It's not a conscious manipulation. It's an attempt to protect you. Love is there, but it can come out as criticism, unsolicited advice, or subtle pressure. And if a daughter feels restricted, it can create tension and strain in the family dynamic. Third, her own unresolved trauma. If your mom had a difficult marriage, experienced heartbreak, or betrayal from men, she may project her experiences onto you. Unconsciously, she tries to protect you from the pain she went through. Instead of support, this can feel like pressure, doubt, and inner conflict for the daughter. Fourth, lack of personal fulfillment. If a mom hasn't found herself, hasn't fulfilled her own dreams, she may unconsciously turn her daughter's life into a project. You become an extension of her story, her goals, her plans, and suddenly, she's shaping what she thinks is right. Again, with good intentions, but with very real consequences for your relationship. All of this creates tension that can feel external, like your mom is interfering, criticizing, or ruining things. But in reality, it's coming from her fears, her wounds, and her unfulfilled needs. When you understand this, you can start seeing the situation without resentment and begin setting boundaries to protect your life and your relationship. It's really important to understand what separation actually is. A lot of people confuse it with conflict, rebellion, or distance, but it's not that at all. Separation is about inner autonomy, about being yourself inside, even while staying in a relationship with your mom. It means you can love your mom deeply, but you don't live her life. You hear her opinion, you respect her experience, but you make your own decisions. You remain a daughter. You honor her. You value your connection. But at the same time, you become a separate woman. Separation isn't a breakup, a fight, or distance. It's the ability to maintain boundaries, feel grounded, and live your own life without losing love for your mom. When separation is real, you interact with your mom not out of fear, guilt, or obligation. You interact from the place of an adult woman who knows what she wants while keeping warmth and connection. Separation is inner freedom. It's the ability to be a daughter and a wife at the same time, to love and respect your mom and still be fully yourself. It's the foundation for building healthy relationships with your husband, with your mom, and with yourself. Without boundaries, nothing will change. They're the key to making your relationships with your mom and your husband healthier. Where are boundaries needed? First, it's important not to discuss with your mom conflicts with your husband, the intimate side of your relationship, or doubts about your partner. When you share these things, she unconsciously starts influencing how you see him, forming her own opinions, and you start second-guessing yourself. And that immediately creates tension between you and your husband. Second, you need to clearly separate roles. Mom, husband. They shouldn't exist in the same influence system. Mom is mom. Her experience and opinion are valuable, but they don't run your family life. Your husband is your partner, and your connection should exist between just the two of you. Third, you need to be able to put boundaries into words. I hear you, but I'll decide for myself. It's simple, but powerful. You show respect to your mom and stay connected with her, while taking responsibility for your own decisions. Without boundaries, that inner conflict stays alive. Doubt and pressure keep affecting your relationship. With boundaries, space opens up for the adult woman inside you, the real, free, confident you, living fully with both your husband and your mom. It's really important to be honest with yourself. Take a moment and ask yourself a few questions. When I get angry at my husband, is this my reaction or my mom's? Is this coming from your own experience or an old learned pattern? When I doubt myself, is this my experience or her fear? Are your doubts genuine, or have they been influenced by years of her input? When I make a choice, am I acting out of fear or feeling? Are you acting to avoid losing her approval or following your own sense of what's right for you? This kind of self-check is the first step toward understanding yourself. Only by recognizing what's really influencing your feelings can you take back control over your decisions and your relationships. The most important shift. This is the key moment of growing up. It determines how free, confident, and independent you can be in your life and relationships. It comes down to two simple but powerful steps. Stop seeking approval. Stop living in the constant expectation of, Mom has to accept me, or Mom has to approve. As long as these thoughts are inside, you're stuck in a child's position, living under someone else's control instead of your own life. Start taking responsibility. Responsibility for your decisions, your feelings, your life. It's not about pressure or burden. It's about grounding, inner confidence, and freedom. When you start thinking, I choose my life, and I take responsibility for it, real internal transformation begins. You start feeling support within yourself. You no longer depend on someone else's approval, opinions, or fears. This is the point where the daughter stops running the show, and the woman steps in. And this is exactly where mature, deep, and happy relationships begin. And here's the deepest takeaway you need to understand. Mom isn't directly destroying your relationship. She's not acting out of malice, and she's not the enemy of your happiness. But if inside you, there's still the daughter who's afraid, the little girl who doubts, the child seeking permission, then everything you build can get undermined through you. Not because your husband is bad, not because your mom is controlling, but because old fears, doubts, and patterns are running your reactions. You respond not from the adult woman inside you, but from the child inside the daughter. And that's what creates distance, distrust, and tension. Seeing this is the key. When you recognize which part of you is the child and which is the woman, you can start making conscious choices. And then your relationships are built not through someone else's fears, but through your own inner adult strength. This is the deep point of power, the place where true freedom and mature, strong relationships begin. And finally, the most honest question you can ask yourself. If you let go of the fear of upsetting your mom, how would you build your relationship without worrying about her opinion, without the internal pressure, without that familiar guilt? If you could act only from your heart, from your inner adult self, what would you do differently? How would you communicate with your husband? What boundaries would you set? What decisions would you make confidently and calmly? This question isn't about your mom or your husband or external circumstances. It's about you, your inner strength, and your choices. The answer shows the path to real freedom, maturity, and strong relationships. This is where the possibility of building a life the way you want it, without fear or hesitation, truly begins.